I want to share something very personal with you, something that's been with me my whole life, for as long as I can remember. And it's all about being consistent. I've always had dreams, projects, big ideas, but when it came time to bring them to life, something always got in the way. My body or my mind or both would come up with excuses. Suddenly, I'd feel hungry and find myself walking to the kitchen, but I knew it was anxiety. Or I'd feel restless, like the chair was burning under me. Or I'd think, I'll just give my parents a quick call. Or send a message to my friend, fancy going for a walk? Or watch just one more video that might help me somehow. Every time I try to take a step forward, an invisible force pulled me back. I couldn't understand why this kept happening. Sometimes I could concentrate for hours, completely absorbed, enjoying every second, and other times I couldn't sit still for 10 minutes in front of my computer. That contrast deeply frustrated me. By the end of the day, I'd often realize I hadn't done what truly mattered. I felt trapped in a torturous cycle: excitement, attempt, distraction, guilt. Then it all starts over again. The moment of the click. One of my awakenings came unexpectedly. I'd watched hundreds of videos on personal growth, read inspiring books by all sorts of gurus, heard quotes that felt like they were written just for me, followed blogs with millions of readers. And yet, nothing really changed. I was still that same woman full of dreams but short on action. But one day, while watching yet another video, nothing extraordinary, nothing I hadn't heard before, something clicked. I don't know if it was the tone, the timing, or simply that I was finally ready to hear it differently. That day, I realized the difference between endlessly gathering knowledge and truly transforming my life came down to one simple thing: starting. It wasn't about watching more videos, buying more courses, or filling notebooks with ideas and notes. It was about taking action, getting to work, and sticking with it. It was a small click, but a powerful one. I'd internalized that action is the force that turns the wheel that moves a project forward. It sounds obvious, right? But not when you are lost in an ocean of information, scrolling through social media, reading books, signing up for courses, and end up feeling directionless, surrounded by tools, but not knowing what to do with them. I finally understood. What mattered most was to start to apply what I'd learned, and most importantly, to stay with it. First steps, excitement and setbacks. The next morning, I got out of bed, sat down at my laptop, and made a plan. I wanted to be realistic, achievable goals, small steps, simple routines. For a few days, I felt unstoppable. I woke up early, did what I planned, and felt proud by the end of the day. It was like I'd cracked a code. Everything suddenly made sense. But then an old acquaintance showed up. Resistance. Those familiar sensations returned. The urge to eat, even when I wasn't hungry. That nameless anxiety that made me get up again and again. The urge to check my phone, scroll through messages, or inspire myself with another video. That constant need to distract myself without really knowing why, like a little white rabbit begging me to follow it down the hall into a world where time didn't exist and everything flowed peacefully. These little and not so little interruptions pulled me away from my project again. And then came the guilt. Why can't I stay on track? Why do I always fall back into the same pattern? Some days, I gave in the sofa one. I closed my action plan notebook and surrendered to the comfort of not trying. And in those moments, guilt returned, whispering, "You failed again." Learning from failure. It didn't happen overnight, of course. It was while working on my project that something unlocked in me. I realized those failures weren't enemies, but teachers. Each setback revealed something about myself that needed attention, something I needed to understand right in that moment. I noticed that when I was tired or hadn't slept well, my mind wandered and my body became restless. That's when resistance would show up and make it impossible to focus. I also realized it wasn't laziness. It was a signal that my energy needed care. And the more I punished myself for failing, the harder it was to start again. Guilt paralyzed me. But when I accepted mistakes as part of my journey, the weight lifted and I could refocus without so many blocks. Each failure became an alert saying, "You've fallen, now get up quickly." I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to collect small wins. The difference this time was that I didn't stay stuck in the mistake. I saw it as a bend in the road, not a wall I couldn't cross. That change in perspective started to make a real difference. It strengthened my resilience. Success wasn't about not failing. It was about getting back up again and again. This was becoming a skill I was slowly mastering, the result of my decision to keep going. Some call it resilience. Others might say, when life gives you lemons, keep making lemonade. Discipline as an ally. I became aware that I was training my discipline, but not as punishment. I made simple rules for myself. They weren't strict or suffocating, more like a personal assistant, gently guiding me back to focus and keeping me on my chosen path. Simple but powerful rules. Sit down to work for at least 10 minutes, even if I didn't feel like it. Notice the excuses my mind came up with, instead of obeying them straight away. Celebrate every small task I completed, no matter how minor. Sometimes those 10 minutes turned into an hour of deep focus. Other times they didn't, and that was okay. What mattered was showing up every day, proving to myself that I could stick to my plan. There was something deeply satisfying about that. Even when I didn't manage everything, it still felt right, because my intuition told me this was the way. A path called consistency, built from small repeated actions, discipline in motion. It reminded me of that line by Antonio Machado. Traveler, there is no path, the path is made by walking. The small victories. I still remember the first time I managed to finish a full script without getting up 100 times. It felt like running an inner marathon. When I finished, I felt a mix of exhaustion and pride. That day, I proved to myself that it was possible. I celebrated by cooking myself a delicious dinner. No meal tastes better than the one you eat after a good day's work. Each bite was a symphony of flavors and textures that felt almost divine. That chicken sandwich could have rivaled the feast of the gods themselves. There were more wins after that. A full week sticking to my routines, resisting distractions and consciously choosing to keep working, returning to my action plan after a tough day without giving in to procrastination. Each win, each step forward showed me I could trust myself, that my word had weight. The transformation. My relationship with consistency changed week by week. I no longer saw it as a battle I was doomed to lose, but as a daily practice. Discipline stopped feeling like the enemy of my freedom. It became the tool that let me choose where to place my energy. And then it became clear. I realized why I'd resisted consistency, why I'd kept getting up, why I'd always answered the call of distractions. Behind all that resistance was fear. Fear of failing, fear of not being good enough. Aha, got you. I'd found the key. The way to move through fear is to act in spite of it. Consistency stopped being an unreachable ideal and became my steady companion. These days, sometimes it feels routine, even dull. Other times, like running a race full of hurdles. Each jump is hard, but the distance I've already covered gives me the strength to keep going. And I know it's necessary. Consistency is there in every small thing I do. I can see it, and I can see my own worth in every step I take. The goal achieved. Now, looking back, I can see how far I've come. It's not a long road yet, but every step has been walked with intention and effort. The woman who once felt trapped between ideas and guilt has learned to stay grounded in the present, to trust her actions, and to build from small, steady steps because every bit of progress counts. I still have moments of weakness. They haven't disappeared, but now I know they don't define me. What defines me is my decision to stand up again and again. I finally opened my eyes. Consistency is a way of living, of being in the world. It's the doorway to any goal I want to reach. It turns dreams into actions, and when I act, I see results. When I don't, dreams remain just that, dreams, projects that never see the light. Perhaps the greatest lesson this journey has given me is that discipline doesn't limit me, it sets me free. It frees me from guilt for not acting, from the loop of procrastination, from the paralysis of fear and self-doubt. And it frees me to create, to grow, to achieve what once seemed impossible. Trust your process. The freedom you're looking for isn't waiting at the end of the road. It's in every conscious step you take today. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to get more like it. And tell me, what's the story inside you, the one you need to tell? I'd love to read it. See you in the next story.